The first one, as I said, is to define, and you really need to understand, as Tom mentioned and talked about in the presentation, who are your users? Because each of the different users will have a different adoption and things that they do within the application. And if you don't understand that and who the users are and the roles that they utilize and fulfill within the application, then you're not going to be able to identify really where the issues are and how to address the adoption with each of those user roles. So we've listed some of the user roles. There's obviously going to be more or different depending on your application and what you're doing and your users. You may have additional sales roles. You may not have customer support. This is just something you'll tailor to the users in your environment. Secondly, once you've identified and categorized your users, you need to understand what is the purpose of the application for them. What is it going to be doing? What are they going to be doing within the application? So for a customer support user, like Tom talked about, it's creating customer care tickets. It's dealing with trouble tickets. It's creating solutions. For marketing users, the purpose for them is being able to create campaigns and generate leads. So it's really just identifying, what is the different purposes for all the different users within your application. Next, what are the goals does the organization have for those users based on their roles? What is it that a sales user needs to do? Well, is it increasing the accuracy of the forecast? Is it, generating or moving opportunities through all the different sales stages? For a customer support person, is it, having customer care tickets close in a timely manner? What are the different goals and the metrics that they're going to be, using the system for and measured on? And as Tom said, the rhythms is the other piece. What is it that you're looking for? What's the expectation of usage for those different roles? And it will be different for each of them. So for a sales user, they really should be inside that system at least on a daily basis, if not all day, going in there and adding different data to the objects, as we said, growing the objects, adding new accounts, adding contacts to those, adding activities on the different accounts that they've got. For customer support users, they need to be in there, obviously, all day taking calls, updating solutions, updating their SRs, closing SRs. Marketing users won't be in the system on a daily basis, most likely. It will depend on if they've got campaigns running and they've got leads coming in and they're qualifying and converting those leads. Management will be in the system, and they'll be in there for mentoring, and they'll be in there for coaching, and they'll be in there for running their reports as needed during the week. And executives the same. They're going to be running reports as often as needed to understand, the state of their business. Administrators will be in the system, obviously, as often as required to be able to address support issues, and then any of your other users. So it's really understanding what is it that's the expectation for all the different users so that you can identify, based on the reports that Tom showed you, where do you have issues. Right? And then again, what is the additive value that the system is going to offer that user? For the customer support user, it's going to make it a lot quicker if they're in the system and they can pull up a contact and they've already got all their information there instead of having to go back through and type it. So it's an ease of use, it's an efficiency. For the salesperson who's going out on a call, they can go into the system and get a 360-degree view of their account and that they're going to go visit, and it gives them a lot more information that they'll have at their fingertips rather than having to go and pull it from various systems. So again, it's identifying what is that additive value for them, and that's really everything in the define phase. So once you've done that and you've identified and categorized all that for your users, you're going to go in and you're going to diagnose where the issues are. And these issues can be change management, they can be the technology themselves, it can be training, and we have quite a few questions that you need to answer and really look at. And some of these are going to be specific to each of the different user roles that you've got, like, does the application support the user for making their jobs easier and more efficient? Is the application integral to and targeted to their job success? Does the application allow for them to and motivate them to achieve their MBOs and their quota and compensation? Are they motivated to utilize the system? And then there's questions about the organizational culture. Is there executive support that's driving the use of the application? And executive support doesn't just mean executives at the top level. It also means the managers. Are there managers out there that are supporting the application? Are there managers in there that are looking at the application on a weekly basis and providing mentoring and providing coaching? And again, does the organization, user, community foster positive attitudes toward the application? And are their business processes and systems engineered to maximize user adoption? And then there's all kinds of technology questions as well. Have their users been involved in the user interface design? Is it intuitive and easy? And a lot of these go back to what was in the presentation. Is the data reliable and timely and predictable? Are there analytics reports that provide meaningful data, but that's both accessible to the users and actionable? And have the users, the management, and the administrators all been adequately trained? What we see a lot is that people focus on training the users, but don't focus on training the management. And really, if they don't understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing with in the system and the data that they're supposed to be getting out, then they won't use the system, and then it just feeds down to the users. So you need to make sure that you're focusing on the users, the management, and the administrators as well. The administrators need to be trained on the latest functionality, the latest releases that are out there, and what's being done. And that doesn't mean that they have to continue to go through the extensive 4 or 5 day courses that are offered by the various vendors. But there's always online training within the applications as well. But just making sure that they keep up to speed with what's available, because as the new releases come out, they need to be able to identify what functionality is going to make the system better for the users. And then lastly, is there readily available and trained support? All the vendors offer, obviously, support where you can call into, but you also need to have your administrators and identify power users that your other users can go to and ask questions. You want to have users, like I said, power users out there that understand not only the technology and what's been configured, but also understand the business processes. So if a user is struggling with the system and how they're supposed to use it in their daily function, they can go and ask somebody who's going to be able to answer those questions. You're also going to want to go through and do a problem analysis. And that's really, is it specific to a certain users or roles or groups? Are users logging in on a daily basis? Is there growth in the data of the respective roles objects? Are they achieving the expected KPIs? Are there users that are not logging in at all? And those are all information that you're going to get from the different reports that you're going to build around the user adoption and ones that Tom showed through the presentation. Other ways of getting that data are sending out surveys to users, or having forums where you have power users on the call and you have other users who are struggling because you've identified that through those reports, and talking through the application and how things work and where they're having issues. The other thing to do is to look through your service requests that have been created by the admins. Are there trends out there of where your users are struggling? Looking at those trends and identifying that there might be problems with the configuration or something that the users just aren't understanding. That if they did, and there was and you could retrain them on that, that maybe that would help drive user adoption too. And it could be as simple as I don't know how to create a list to get the data out of the system that I need.